Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. As the tax season is slowly coming to its end, April the 15th is just a couple of weeks away. It doesn't mean that the Internal Revenue Service stops reviewing and auditing returns. In today's video, I want to share with you the details on when and how the IRS may reach out to a taxpayer directly. This includes in-person visits. We'll talk about that later in this video. The information is very important considering that there have been multiple scams reported recently when people receive text messages or calls allegedly from the IRS. The IRS will never ever text you. They may call you, but only after sending you several notices first and in the event of an ongoing tax audit. The details I want to share with you today are very important because they will help you identify those scams and to know what to stay away from. If you want to see more content like this, just let me know. You can do so by giving this video a thumbs up and becoming a subscriber. The information I'm sharing with you today comes directly from the IRS. I will link it below in case you want to do some additional homework. So in what cases does the IRS contact a taxpayer directly? The IRS will reach out directly to you if there is an unpaid balance on your account. That is, if you owe taxes or if they believe there is a serious issue with your return, such as a mistake or even fraud. For example, if the IRS identifies that you made a math error on your return, they will make an adjustment and then send you a letter, either A, indicating that an adjustment has been made but no additional taxes are owed, or B, there has been an adjustment and now as the result of that adjustment, you owe additional taxes that you have to pay by a certain date. If you believe that the IRS made a mistake and if you have receipts, invoices, or other documents to support your position, you will have an option to dispute that adjustment and any possible additional taxes. I discussed that in detail in one of my recent videos. Let's talk about how the IRS may contact you. 9 times out of 10, they will do so via mail, but the IRS may pay you an in-person visit. Remember that the IRS does not, never under any circumstances, would send you a text message or call you out of the blue to discuss your return. Those are scammers. Typically, the IRS will send you a letter in the mail via the United States Postal Service only. The letter will have a date and you will need to respond by that date and or provide any necessary information that they are requesting. If they don't hear from you by that date, they will send you a follow-up letter. As all of us understand, the IRS won't stop, so ignoring those letters will only make the situation worse. If you cannot make a tax payment in full by the deadline, I want you to know that you could avoid late payment penalties and fees and those letters if you apply for a payment plan, which will allow you to pay off your tax balance over time. You will find the link to the IRS website where you can learn more about that below. Does the Internal Revenue Service come to taxpayers or business locations? The answer to that is yes. In very rare circumstances, the IRS agents do knock on doors, and typically you will see there are 3 scenarios when this may happen. It may happen as part of a collection investigation, an audit, or an ongoing criminal investigation. So let's talk about in-person visits next. Before we continue, I would like to remind you to check out our sponsor, ExpressVPN. It is my recommended virtual private network for secure online browsing. I use it every single day. These days, all of our information is online, and you absolutely have to make sure that your connection is secure and there isn't someone stealing your bank, your email passwords, and other personal data. Claim 3 full months of free service when you sign up using the link shared in the description below. Based on the information published by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS employees that may make face-to-face visits outside an IRS office include revenue officers, revenue agents, and IRS criminal investigation special agents. So what is the difference between these 3 groups of people? Starting with revenue officers, they are IRS civil enforcement employees whom the agency sends to resolve compliance issues. So this is all about compliance. This is when there is a long history of unfiled returns and or a person filed returns but failed to pay taxes. These are the situations when the IRS typically sends multiple letters via USPS and doesn't receive a response. So they then decide to send a revenue officer to a taxpayer's registered address or place of business if it is a small business owner. Should you expect to be notified in advance of such visits? No, absolutely not. The IRS won't send you anything in advance. These are typically unscheduled in-person visits, and you might be curious what happens during those visits. A revenue agent will share the details of what it is the IRS believes you owe, what you need to do to remediate that situation, and they will typically try to offer you options and work with you to resolve those issues. A revenue agent is different from a revenue officer. Revenue agents are typically the ones who perform in-person field audits at the taxpayer's home or places of business. One thing to point out here is that these types of visits are scheduled in advance. Typically, it is done via mail, USPS mail, or in some cases, a phone call. Both revenue officers and agents should at all times have two forms of identification as an IRS employee, and anyone whom they visit should be asking for that identification prior to discussing anything further. So that's very important to note as well. The third group of an IRS employee who might show up on a doorstep is IRS criminal investigation special agents. Most of us sort of have those visual references from movies when we hear something like this. IRS agents only get involved when there is a fraud or money laundering or some other type of a financial crime. I do want to emphasize that no IRS employee should demand a payment. Again, if you hear or see something like that, it means that it is a scam. To sum it up, any initial contact is usually made using mail via USPS. The IRS will send several letters first, and if there are no responses, and only in very rare circumstances does it send its employees for in-person visits. But of course, it does happen, and it depends on the amount owed and other details of that situation. Thank you for watching the video. I do hope that you found it helpful. If you learned something new from this video, give it a like and share it with your friends and family. Share it with your network. Subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back for my next one. Take care.